Very good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to Royal Bangalore Food, and this is Paul. Welcome to my channel. This is a very new channel. We're going to talk about new food, creative business ideas, about cooking instructions, food science, food technology, and more of all, it's about enjoying what food is all about. So, my name is Paul. Welcome to my channel. I would appreciate that you go ahead and show some love. We're going to kickstart a series of understanding how cricket and food is always the amalgamation and the talk of the town whenever you sit in the dining table when you discuss about it. It's been a week. Chennai Super Kings went ahead and won the IPL for the fifth time. They made it for the 10th final in 15 years. That's a tremendous enough effort from Chennai Super Kings. In regards to that, and in delight of that, I thought of making a chicken biryani, because when the Chennai team effort came together, it was all glory. And today we're going to kickstart to understand what a chicken biryani is all about from the Chennai style. So Chennai whistle podunga, eppadi all the Tamil fans all over the world, especially from Chennai and from Tamil Nadu and all my friends across. This is a chicken biryani all dedicated and deputed only for the Chennai Super King fans, wherever you are, and all the players who actually made the IPL, what it is, and what was supposed to be the greatest IPL ever played. The last ball finish for a Chennai Super Kings plays it all after 78 matches played across 3 days. So exactly the last Saturday was supposed to be the IPL. I mean the Sunday. It went on to Sunday and it went on to the Monday morning as well. So that's a greatest effort. So 3 days of tournament or final only that we witnessed because of rain, sun, then the delay, and went on till Monday early morning till 2 o'clock. We were all wide awake. So not to waste that joy of fun, to celebrate it. So I am going to show my kind of a Chennai biryani, what it's supposed to be. And just to give you a small introduction about biryani. We all knew Mughals got it in the 16th and 13th or probably the 16th century. Not recorded. Everybody has a different story, but my story is very clear. The biryani is the favorite of India wherever it originated. Similarly to cricket, it originated in UK, but it all becomes successful in India. So that's exactly what we're talking about. The best biryani in town. So we're going to look at it, how Chennai biryani sounds, looks like. What are the ingredients used? This is my version of making it. I mean, I would also leave the entire ingredients descriptions, in the description, just to go ahead and help you out how it works out. And today we're going to look at it of making 1 kg of chicken biryani. Okay, precisely my favorite is going to be the Jeera Samba rice, or what we call it as the short grain rice. We have sourced it. There is a secret ingredient. I will also explain it as we shoot this particular, the session. It's going to be a lunch for us, so it's going to be a long, lengthy video. I would request you to go ahead and bear and also make notes, because this is going to be very precise, measured. The idea is to create an idea. What I mentioned earlier about this channel is to standardize a biryani joint. So you will see me cooking periodically different types of biryanis, come from specifically from South India and then leading up to North India. So there's a question for you. Do you know how many types of biryani are there in South India? If you know, please comments below. By the time I would have explained it in the deep end. So go ahead and hit that like and follow and subscribe. We will catch you at the deep end, and follow me as the journey begins. Alright, we all know what happens when you go ahead and start the biryani. You always start with oil and the fat, which gets cooked and fried. So we have onions, we have tomatoes, green chilli. I'm also chopping little bit of onion just to make it how much is required to go ahead and create. So what we do is we all record measurement wise biryanis. That is the whole important that we're doing. It might be not required exactly measured. We have measured this, every information about it, and then this will be forecasted and also put in description. So I will also mention in terms of exactly how much of onions is required. You can just go ahead and make a note. So folks, as I was saying, that biryani actually came from a word called brinch, and that brinch came from a word from a country called from Persia, which is current Iran. And what we also know that there was a speculation between Samarkand, which is in Uzbekistan currently, also in Iran. The biryani originated from either from these two places, but history also says that India had already coined biryani. So we never know where the biryani originated from, but all we know is Muhammad Ali Beg. Let me repeat, is Muhammad Ali Beg, who was from the 19th century in Chennai, coined this. He came from Hyderabad and started the first biryani joint in Chennai. Also, there was another Brahmin guy who moved from Madurai to Chennai, and his name was Ramanathan, who also originated his own version of biryani. But today we're going to look at the most popular version of it. That's exactly what we're going to cook. So basically, we're going to kickstart. This is how we're going to start. So let's go ahead and cook. Light the gas. Ideally, what happens is that this particular biryani is cooked in 3 important pots. Okay, one is the pot which I'm cooking. This is made up of aluminium. The second important pot is always cooked in a copper, right? Copper handi, what we call it as, and precisely is also cooked in the brass pot. That is the most. And the handi, why we do that? Because the entire heat of that cooking will remain in that pot and evenly will distribute the heat so that the meat and the vegetables can cook together. This is 200 ml of groundnut oil. Please remember, every state has his own features of oil. In southern India, specifically from Tamil Nadu and in Andhra and also in Karnataka, we always used of groundnut oil in those days. So this is 200 ml of groundnut oil. This is what the southern India is all up made up of. Specifically, the first spice is called as stone flower, what we call it as in English. It's also called as kalpasi, which gives you a fantastic earthen flavor. Then we have the cardamom pods from all the way from Kerala. We have the star anise. We have some cinnamon stick. This is one of the what do you call it as black cardamom, which give you strong pungent flavor. Then we have cloves. What we have taken is all 1 gram for 1 kg. The idea is not to overpower the spice. It's all 1 gram for all the spices. Please reminder, in Tamil we call it as kalpasi. Kalpasi is the actual flavor. So we're going to put in all the spices. We're going to add onions. This is around exactly 400 grams of onions, which will go exactly for the 1 kg of biryani. Okay, this is another tip, great information for every one of you, is to understand whether it's basmati or Jeera Samba, what do you call it as a short grain rice. So what we have done, we have taken 1 kg of rice, nicely washed it just to remove the starch, and then we have soaked it in for at least for 22 minutes. Specifically, a short grain rice can be soaked almost for 20 minutes, not more than that, ideally speaking. Because what happens is that then the water soaks in and you'll be able to cook faster. Because we need to understand what importance does it give. And the best part is, it's an amazing aromatic flavor of rice. So take care very much of your rice. Now this is how the Chennai team played, because it's not the one ingredient, it's not the chicken, it's not the protein, it's not the rice. It's the amalgamation or the teamwork which goes inside to make the chicken biryani, which makes it very tasty and tantalizingly very yummy. So one of the most important, the gas by lighting up and putting the water into boil. Now why we do this, I also mentioned it, you can also look up my Instagram post, I mentioned it as a secret ingredient. Now we have actually spiced to make the gravy and to make the so-called the jus of it or the roux of it. But to go ahead and flavor the rice, you need to have only 2 ingredients, which is primarily the main source. One is the saunf, flavor the rice. Even though it is an aromatic rice that we're using, but this will even enhance later stage when we cook. It's about 1 teaspoon of fennel seeds. Rice to boil. The water has to be, or rather the water has to be a little bit salty, which means that once you drain the rice and add to the to the curry or to the gravy of biryani, making sure that you're adding salt makes a very primarily situation. Please understand, biryani is one of the most savory dishes. It covers salt, sour, little bit of spicy, little bit of pungency, and best of all the umami of the meat and the rice together. So it covers all the 5 aspects of your taste palates. So making sure that your salt that you add to the water, it's always, it stands upright, and making sure that it hits your, it should be like a sea water. Let me taste. Okay, you also need to understand, you need to make the onions very brown. It's not golden brown, it's not translucent, making sure that it's really brown, and it lives the umami flavor of the onions. Whatever the onions flavor, sometimes onions can turn out to be very sweeter. So you will not be able to adjust the flavor of the biryani. That's a very important tip. So making sure that you don't make the onions black, it has to be the right consistency of that brown. I'm just going to add a little bit of coriander. This is get the aroma right. Just a little bit of sauteing. This will help you just to cover it up. And once the onions is completely brown, then we add a little bit of coriander to get the flavor going. 100 grams of garlic, and this is 100 grams of ginger paste for another 2 minutes, making sure that you don't burn any masalas. Whatever you put in, you saute this for a while and then get going with the next ingredient. Okay, I'm also adding around exactly 300 grams of tomato which is being chopped, and I'm adding also around close to 7 green chilies, this little bit on the pungent side. So this exactly is one bunch of my hand of mint, or so-called pudina, what we call it. And this is another one bunch of coriander. Exactly, we have taken 1 kg of chicken. Primarily what happens to get the flavor of the meat in your biryanis, it's always better to go ahead and add at least 200 gram or so-called 1:1.2 ratios. If your rice is 1 kg, making sure that your meat at least goes to 1.2 or to 1.3. Today, we have just taken 1 kg of chicken. What we have taken here is the Kashmiri or so-called the Degi chili powder, red chili powder, which will not have the pungent level. The Scoville level will be a little bit low. For 1 kg, we need to add 2 teaspoons of, and we are also adding half a teaspoon of Biryani Garam Masala, which is spice grounded at home. I will give you the recipe later. But currently this is Garam Masala that we have taken. We have taken a not that sour curd, we have just taken a normal curd. As I mentioned earlier, if the curd turns out to be sour, then you need not to add lemon. Okay, that's a reminder for you. Making sure that if the curd is not sour, then it's always preferable to make sure that you add a lemon juice. Exactly for 1 kg, you need to add only 1 lemon juice. Now I'm going to add curd. We have not added salt. Right now I'm just taking half a teaspoon of a table salt, which I'm going to add to the gravy. Now, as I mentioned it earlier, you need to make sure that the salt is being balanced well, because once the rice is getting cooked and once the gravy is getting cooked, it will get, and later we can obviously check in terms of the spice level and also the salt level. Just look at the beauty of this color, which has come out amazingly well. This will turn out the same color once the biryani gets cooked. So we're going to add close to 1 liter of water. The measurement of utilizing all the measurement, it comes down to this important thing, which is the H2O. It's the water. Primarily, the New York pizza makes famous only because of the New York tap water. Here we have taken the Kaveri tap water, and that is what is going inside. For 1 kg of chicken, we have taken exactly 1 liter of water. Now this water will help you to build that gravy. And so we've added 1 liter of water to the gravy. The reason I'm saying is that because you need to know when you put the rice after boiling, the water should be actually exactly 1 inch above than your rice. Only then it needs that amount of water to disappear as it cooks for 20 minutes or so. That's another important tip that you have to follow. People who don't know, I've seen many women, many YouTubers who cook would actually end up spoiling this particular rice. Especially Jeera Samba rice, it's very differentiate to cook. You should make sure that you cannot add 1:1 ratio. It's always supposed to be less. If you're missing that, the first point, then you can actually take 1 inch of your size of your spatula, measure it, and then go ahead and go for a cook. Only then the aromatic Jeera Samba rice will be very fluffy, and also it will be completely different. And now I'm going to add around exactly one lemon, whole lemon, and I'm going to filter this. 1 lemon of lemon juice. Now the reason we are also adding a citric acid, or so-called the lemon juice, as I mentioned earlier, biryani always needs to have many flavors around. Okay, we have the umami flavor, the meaty texture of the protein from the meat. Then we're going to have from the rice the aromatic. Then all the spices blend in together, and to texture and to maintain the sourness from the curd, you need to add 1 lemon juice. It also acts like a tenderizer even for the meat as well as for the gravy. Once it gets cooked evenly, it keeps, the best part, it keeps the rice different. It doesn't stick together. Another added benefit when you add lemon to a biryani, specifically when you make a chennai biryani. Now we spoke about chennai biryani. Look at the color. Just look at this beautiful color. It's coming into boil. We need not to cook the chicken for full 100% because eventually we're going to leave it in the dum. We just need that boil coming in. So once the boil has come out, we're going to just shut it down for a while. We're just going to close the lid. As it gets boiled, we'll put the rice and then transfer it. The rice water is getting cooked. We have added only fennel seeds and we have added salt. Now we're going to add the rice to it, making sure that even this gravy comes also to a boil, is coming into a boil. We need some more boil coming in. Until then we shut it down for a while, close the lid, and now we add the rice, the Jeera Samba rice, to this boiling water. Now that we have added the rice to the boiling water, maximum it has to cook for 70%, not more than that. If the moment you let more than 70%, the rice will get soggy, it will just get smashed up. There's no point of enjoying biryani. So making sure that once you put the rice, you don't sieve it or you don't mix it. You just need to check how far 70% the rice is getting cooked. You would know a little bit by swelling of the rice, which means to say the rice is getting cooked as soon as possible. It is just that the one boil will give you the determination. Alright folks, so basically this rice is cooked for 70%. It has come with one particular boil. We're going to switch it off, and then we're going to transfer this to a particular rice strainer and strain this particular rice water, and we'll reuse that water to put dum because we don't have the charcoal fire. I've not mentioned about the fire. We'll talk some other time about the food science. But currently, since we're cooking under CNG, the cylinder, we have to transport this to particular strainer and then strain the water and keep that water. Let me remind you. What we see is that the gravy has also changed its color and the water has come to a boil. It's the right time to go ahead and add the rice. Zoom out, complete zoom out. Slowly from the top. Okay folks, so if you have gone ahead and added the rice is coming to a boil. What we have to do is making sure that it's in full flame for 5 minutes. That's more important. And then we'll put the so-called the tawa under and then put it for dum. It's very important. I mentioned earlier, the water should be at least a half an inch or 1 inch more than the rice. So we've exactly kept it. I'll just swirl it for one last time, making sure that there is it's catching up in the bottom of the pan. Because of that, we make sure that it's all in even Steven. For 5 minutes, the water is boiled. Now we put it for dum for 20 minutes. Okay, that's around 20 minutes. We'll see how does it work out. Open the lid, and then the best part about it is let the biryani rest even more 5 minutes. Because as I said, all the juices, all the water, all the meat protein will just settle down. It's always better when you cut the dum. You used to leave your time and then go ahead and open the dum. So now we're just going to see after some time. Going to put in dum and then keep it for 20 minutes under the slow flame. So right after all these points, what you have shown, as I mentioned, if you watched till this deep end, please go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel called Royal Bangalore Food. So you have done on the dum, you put a tawa under it and you put the biryani to go ahead and simmer down the entire heat. Probably it would take 160 degrees to 180 degrees if you put it in the oven. So we have this rational oven in bigger setup in the bigger restaurants. Biryani can go. Also, you can use a pizza oven to go ahead and bake it. It's even more fantastic. But nothing like to go ahead and use a firewood, because you can actually innovate from here. You can put a 2 dollops of ghee and when you serve, or you can use a charcoal just to flavor, to get that the charcoaly flavor, to get that burnt flavor when you eat. Because precisely when the gas was not there in earlier days, everybody had used firewood. So we put the same water, the hot water, just to get the the heat transport evenly. We would get to know, provided when the vessel leaves out a little bit of steam, the flavor, the aroma of chicken biryani gets cooked. You will get to know. Only then you will know that everything is even and Steven, and then it's cooked. We leave exactly for 20 minutes, and then we come back and check how it pans out. So we have done the first half of the cooking. We're just going to understand what is chicken biryani, or so-called the biryani, all about. I was mentioning it earlier. The history says it came from Samarkand, from Uzbekistan, current Uzbekistan, or many people also foray about Mughals bought it from Persia, which is nothing but Iran. But in Iran and Iraq, if you see the two different kinds of biryani which gets cooked, they use a lot of berries, which is more similar to the Afghani pulao. Because what I feel is that back in those days of what Indian cooking is all about was to utilize the spices. We all know the entire South India was the southern golden route, or so-called the southern spice route, also compared to the north. Because whenever the Southeast Asia, many historians wanted to travel, they always came down to the south, from the coast of Coimbatore, Madurai, Chennai, or even for the matter of fact Kanyakumari, and also this side on the western side, on the Kochi side and the Mangalore side. That was actually a sea route. People used to carry a lot of perfumes and the spices, the rice, the silk. India was known flourishing for a whole lot of things. So obviously food as a per se can never be left alone. And I'm sure whether it came from Samarkand, or probably it came from Iran, or it came from the Mughals, what we have done, specifically the South Indians, we have close to 10 varieties of biryanis here alone. Yes, you heard it right. I told you earlier, it's about 10 biryanis that we have. I would like to mention, now that we started with in Chennai biryani, this is more or less of on a very orange flavor, which is used of red chili powder. You saw the spices mentioned. This is Chennai biryani. Then we have in the so-called the Talpa Katti Dindigul style, which is a little bit on the brown flavor, which is also a short grain rice. Typically on the Chennai biryani is used with the basmati rice, the long grain rice, the flavorsome rice. But as I mentioned, I like, as the Jeera Samba rice. It's one of the most beautiful aromatic rice which comes from southern India. Thanks to River Kaveri, we heard this in a lot of history books. Kaveri was a source water for most of the agricultural from all the 4 states, from Karnataka to Tamil Nadu to Kerala and to Andhra as well, for many other rivers. But predominantly this Jeera Samba rice was grown in this belt of in the Tamil Nadu belt. So Jeera Samba rice become one of the most prime resources to cook this. So I'm a huge fan, and I love it. And I will also tell you in the future editions that Jeera Samba rice actually originated from from UP, from the time of Buddha. Yeah, I would connect it to Buddha, because that is called the Buddha rice, and from we can look at it, the Rajbhog, the Joha Chawal, the Black Chawal, so many other rice variety. But coming back to South India, the Chennai biryani, then we have the Talpa Katti style Dindigul biryani, then we have the Kongan Nadu, what we call it as the Coimbatore and the Salem style. It's completely different there. We call it as the Ambur biryani. I've also mentioned that Mr. Muhammad Ali Beg was the first guy who came from Hyderabad in early 19th century, got this biryani, which the history says. Then we also had another guy called Ramanathan from Coimbatore, who also moved to Chennai, and he created his version of his biryani style. It's just the mix of different spice levels, different types of rices, different types of water, all matters a lot to make this biryani. Okay, coming back. So I mentioned Chennai biryani, Talpa Katti Dindigul biryani. Then we have the Ambur style, which comes from the the Kongan Nadu style from Salem, Coimbatore, and this Vellore style. Then we also have the typical rice which is being used in southernmost tip of in Tamil Nadu, which is a Kanyakumari style, which is more or less influenced from the Malabar cuisine. So again, in South India, when it comes to Kerala, we have the Kozhikode, so-called the Calicut biryani. Then we have the famous Talasheri biryani. But for me, the standout is always the Malabar biryani, which comes from the Malappuram, or so-called, the Malappuram district, or even for the matter of fact, little bit of Kasargod style. It's a pure Mughal treat, which you have to. It just makes your mouth water. We have many people who have explained it, but you need to know this, right? So again, moving from Kasargod to Malappuram to Kwalikot to Talasheri, then we have the Kochi style, which is influenced more of Portuguese and the Jew style. And also down south, if you go, you have this beautiful Trivandrum biryani as well. Now, this is about Kerala. When it comes to Karnataka, now this is where it gets even more. I've already mentioned close to 7. Let's look at the top three according to me. One is the green masala donne biryani, which actually came from Maharashtra, Karnataka belt. They use the ambo rice, another flavoursome short grain rice. This will give you fantastic. So you will see a lot of in Bangalore, the green donne biryani masala. That's another iconic dish. But my most favorite of all, for me, is the Batkali biryani, or so-called the Batkal biryani. They use the long grain rice, but it's the most yummiest biryani you can ever have. The reason why, if you ask me, that's the only biryani which use coconut milk instead of just plain water. That's a sheer of all. There's a class apart. Then we have the Bangalorean style biryani. Then we have the Kurgi style. Different spices levels here and there. Kurgis, the Kodagu style also uses a little bit of tamarind to it just to get the flavor. So as I mentioned, I've not even gone to Andhra. Just look at Andhra. We have the Kurnool side, we have the Hyderabadi style, we have the Secunderabad style, we have the Vizag, the Visakhapatnam. Predominantly, different types of rice. But again, the entire Hyderabad follows Mughals and Nizams. They use the long grain rice. So I spoke about the small grain rice. Now this is where it gets even more interesting. It's an amount of culture, as I mentioned earlier. We go every 20 kilometers in India, we find a different cuisine, a different biryanis altogether. So for me, the standout is number one always is going to be the Batkal biryani from Mangalore style, very close to the Kasargod. Then comes the Talpakatti style, then the Dune biryani, and then it goes on. So there are close to 10 or many varieties of biryani which are there, but I know all of these things. We will look at this as an episode wise. We will go ahead and talk about it. So I'll appreciate that you go ahead and watch and understand and write down and also go ahead and cook. So we're going to hook back to the next part while we'll cut the dum, see how it's been cooked, and then we're going to eat. Watch on. Okay, now 20 minutes done precisely. It's around 3:15, 3:10 precisely. You're going to see how it looks. So this is how I'm going to open. I've switched off the gas. And this is how it looks. Can you see? Yeah. Oof. The aroma is just fantastic. I mean, this has come out exactly the way Chennai biryani is all about. I might be different in color texture, but this is what it comes out. You can watch again and how it is. It's just that another one thing is missing according to me. I would go ahead and add a little bit of dollop of ghee. And imagine the biryani masala. I will just sprinkle it before I serve it. I will just go ahead and use to cut the dum. Just adding few, and that's done. Let's go eat. So this is how I would like to eat. My favorite fried eggs to top it up on the biryani, and my raita. I mean, we're missing only one thing, which is called papadam. And as we go, we would also see the condiments would actually eventually increase where we reach to different regions. So this is my version of the Chennai Super Kings biryani, which I also mentioned on the Instagram. You can visit my handle. I will leave it here in the description as well. So let's go ahead with, we have the aroma rice, Jeera Samba rice, and we have all the flavor. Bon appetit. This is yum, and it can get as better as that. We've exactly followed the tradition what the Chennai biryani is all about. It's just that the rice I mentioned, it's the Jeera Samba, or so called the aromatic short grain rice. Mm, it's worth the effort, it's worth the time for any biryani. And just look at it, it just the chicken is very nicely boiled, nicely cooked, retain all the flavor, and then the rice. You just need to witness this, making sure that you follow these instructions and follow this. I'm sure this will add lot of value for a biryani. And my mouth is watering. Mmm. I picked the fried egg concept in many of the local joint in Chennai as well as in Mangalore, and since then I would like to break the yolk and then just fall apart in the biryani, and then just go ahead, grab your bite. Everybody would give you boiled egg. It has its own distinct flavor, but nothing like the sunny side up, the fried egg with the biryani, and the yolk is just oozing out, mixed with that biryani, with that meat. Take that meat across, along with that egg, the juiciness of that yolk, and then you just enjoy that mesmerizing flavor which dances in your palate. To my folks, it's not an advice, it is just a treat. How sheer passionate about biryani cooking, how Indian cooking, specifically the South Indian biryanis and various other gravies. You're going to look at it. Let me enjoy and twirl this biryani and cut it and go for another serving. We'll always stay with you. Come back to me. Go ahead and like and follow, subscribe. Really appreciate it. Thanks for sticking by making this Chennai biryani, and to CSK Whistle Border. Take care. Cheers. Bye bye.